How many of us know somebody who just can't seem to get it right? I'm talking about just with their whole thought pattern, the decisions that they make. They just can't seem to get it right. And today I want to focus on something that I can relate to and get into the whole penitentiary, black man in the penitentiary type of aspect to our community. How many of us know somebody who goes in and out and in and out and in and out and just always seems to stay in some type of trouble with the law? Now, I ask that because I was this kind of person before. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? I was this kind of person. So I'm not the pot calling the kettle black. The reason I ask this question is because I got to a point in my life where I made a change and decided that I wasn't going back. I did that. I didn't do it for my mother. I didn't do it for anybody except for myself. And I actually sat back and thought about why I made that decision. It wasn't about the fact that prison, you know what I'm saying, was so horrible. I mean, prison is horrible. But let's not get it twisted. Just being human, we are conditioned to do what we have to do to survive. So a part of being able to get through the whole prison experience was my accepting the fact that prison is just another place to be. And in thinking that way, I built up a tolerance to be able to accept the noise, to accept the stupidity that I heard around me, to accept basically having people like guards who were overzealous in their job, who seemed to have no kind of, personal life at home, or were abused in their outside world. So they took that and called themselves straightening it out on the inside of those prison walls strictly because they had a little bit of authority. You know what I mean? I conditioned myself to deal with all of that. So what was it that made me get to the point where I decided that I was never going back? And I realized that the thing that made me get there was the fact that I was sick and tired of being there. I allowed myself to get to the point where I was sick and tired of being there. And that's just it. It's as simple as that. And it made me realize that this is the reason why prisons stay full. Because so many brothers are not sick and tired of being there. They basically get raised in the system and condition themselves to be there, to the point where even when they get released from prison, they are institutionalized in the free world. They do the same type of things in the free world that they did in prison, and they treat the free world as if the free world is their break from the reality of their life, which is prison. You know what I'm saying? Almost as if they're getting released from prison to the free world is the same as an extended visit to somewhere else outside of their home, which is prison. They may have a little bit of fun in the 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is that they stay free. But at the end of the day, their freedom is nothing more than an interlude between the time of them getting released from prison and the next time that they go in. Strictly because they're not sick and tired of being there. What happens is you start off in the juvenile system, you cut up. Before you get there, everybody's telling you how hard it's going to be, how rough it's going to be. Big mistake. Because once you get there in the juvenile system, the first thing you're going to see is a whole bunch of homeboys of yours. Just as stupid as you are, making the same dumb decisions. Now, all the stuff that everybody said about how hard the juvenile system is going to be, that stuff washes away from you so fast, just like that, because you're sitting in there amongst your peers. You group up with your homeboys, and then you immediately start to do your time in a way that makes you comfortable being there. Checkers, chess, spades, TV, you name it, reading rap magazines. You make yourself comfortable in there, in the juvenile system. And what you're doing is conditioning yourself to make the transition from the juvenile system and being comfortable there to the adult prison system, need it be state or federal, and being comfortable there. Nobody's telling you the truth about what it is that prison really does to you. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of trivial and almost cartoonish threats that people assume you automatically have just because you're going to prison. Oh, somebody's going to rape you, or somebody's going to want to jump on you the minute you walk through the door. No, those aren't the biggest threats. The biggest threat in prison is becoming so conditioned that you don't mind being there. That's the biggest threat. I never had like any type of feeling of feeling threatened sexually or physically. Never, not even once. But what I did have is that feeling of being conditioned, that feeling of knowing that, hey, I can make it through this day. I'm going to make it through the next day. I'm going to make it through the next day here. And it's not going to be as bad as everybody thinks. I'm going to have fun the best way that I can. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to play chess. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to watch these games. I'm going to battle rap. I'm going to do all that. And I'm going to make my time easy for me. That was the biggest thing that I had, the threat that I had. And I allowed it to consume me because that's exactly what I did. It's all about surviving. So the reason that these jails are so full of us is because we condition ourselves to survive. I never forget a time when I was in the county jail in Youngstown. There was a white guy there. I mean, from the very moment they took the cuffs off of him and put him in the cell block, he cried. He cried. He cried every single day. And I'm not talking about just silently cry. I'm talking about you can hear him in his cell just wailing away, crying. This was his first time in. And all he had was some unpaid tickets. And he was crying his butt off. I'm talking about the dude was just, it was ridiculous. Here he is amongst people who are going away for years and years and years, but he's in there crying because he's only got traffic tickets. And I remember everybody, including myself, criticizing this dude. Like, man, this dude is a punk. You ain't facing no time at all, and you in there crying? You a punk. You know what I'm saying? Had no respect for the guy. But years later, when I made a change in my life, I thought back to this guy. And you know what I said to myself? He was the smartest guy in the entire jail. Why? Because the minute he walked through that door, he knew he didn't want to be there, and he knew he would never be there again. He hated it. He hated it enough to cry right there in front of all of us. He wasn't bending over backwards to make his time comfortable, but that's what we do. We get there and we pound. We shoot the shit as soon as we get to the compound. We find our buddies and we start looking for things to do to make our time easy on us. And when we get released, what do? It's easier for us to make the decision to go back into the kind of lifestyle that we were living because we know what the consequences are. And we know that the consequences are not as bad as everybody made them out to be. So we actually feel like we have an advantage in the street. Because while everybody else is, trying to avoid getting locked up, we've already been there. And we know that ain't much to it. That's a bad way of thinking. We have to stop conditioning ourselves to accept being held captive like animals, like dogs. What we need to do is, instead of becoming accustomed to being in prison, we need to get to the point where we are sick and tired of being there. Yeah, you can survive. You can survive anywhere in this world if you put your mind to it. But when it comes to a place like prison, where you basically seen as nothing, you have to get to the point where you're sick and tired of it. Get sick and tired of it. That's the only way we'll stop filling up these jails. is to become sick and tired of it. If you know somebody who keep going in and keep going out, let them know. You're not sick and tired of it yet. You're just doing your thing. You're treating freedom as if it's a visit and prison as if it's your life because you're not sick and tired of it. I am. I ain't never going back up in there. I promise you that. Peace, y'all.